Are you struggling to advance your career and sacrificing time with your loved ones because of endless to-dos, low energy, and just not enough time in the day? If so, then this podcast is for you. I am your host, Dr. Tsung, an ER, critical care, and space doctor, a peak performance coach, real estate investor, and a mother of a toddler. I'm here to guide you on mastering your mind and give you the essential skills to achieve peak performance. So welcome to Productivity MD, where you can learn to master your time and achieve the 5 freedoms in life. Welcome to Productivity MD podcast, and I am your show host, Dr. Tsung. And today I have Dr. Ryan Mallory here. He is a interventional cardiologist, board certified. He's also the founder of Halftime Freedom, where he teaches other physicians how to create time freedom, geographic freedom, all the freedom that you want through locums and strategic lifestyle design. And also he is a huge STR investor that allows them, the whole entire family, to deduct a ton off their taxes due to bonus depreciation. And also a father of 2 young kids, a 5 and 7-year-old. And the reason why I'm bringing you on, or Dr. Mallory on, is because we want to be efficient with our time. We want to have control of our time. And he has really embodied, like, he's been courageous enough to stop the regular jobs, becoming a cardiologist at the hospital, just do locums so he can control his time efficiently and never sacrifice time and energy with his wife, with his kids. So again, thank you so much for coming onto the show. And please tell the audience why you went through this entire journey of switching from regular, interventional cardiologist to now working locums, STR investor, and then why you created Halftime Freedom.
Well, thank you for the introduction, Ann. I'm really happy to be on today, and thank you for having me. For me, I started out my job like any other interventional cardiologist, building my practice, trying to get in procedures and see patients. And in my mind, I was going to balance 50-50, time at home with my family, time at work. But as I worked more, the scales started tilting in the direction where it was very difficult to get everything done in the time that I allotted for it. I realized I had an epiphany. It was because I didn't have control over my time. Someone else was telling me how many patients I needed to see, when the procedures needed to be done. They were scheduling the procedures. Even at times I had blocked off. And, when a patient shows up, you say, sorry, I'm not available, even though I am available. So it was very frustrating. And I heard from my wife, I was home and not present. I was constantly trying to get back to work to get it signed off before the end of the day. And I decided enough was enough. And so I quit my job and I went full-time locums. My wife suggested it. We got into coaching and I got linked with somebody else who had done it. And it's been transformational for me. So I went from working 70 hours a week, 4 weeks a month. Now I work 10 to 12 days a month. And the rest of the time I have off, I've been able to actually increase my income in the last year doing locums. And so now I am a lot more present with my family. And I've been able to take that additional time that locums gave me and upgrade other parts of my life, whether it's my own vitality, our short-term rental investments, our tax savings. And now I'm living a life I didn't think was possible before. And so I've started Halftime Freedom to help other physicians bridge that gap, because there's a lot of discomfort, a lot of anxiety, jumping from the known into the unknown. Having somebody who's done it before, I think, would be really helpful to give some guidelines or a blueprint on how to do that successfully.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, your why. Since we're such like numbers person, data person, can you tell me a little bit about how many hours less are you working per month versus before, and how a percentage, like approximate income increase, can people anticipate going locums? Just in your example.
For me, I was working 4 or 5 days a week and then every 6th weekend on call. So, about 21 to 22 days a month. I would get home at about 6 o'clock at night. So I'd have maybe 2 hours with my family before kids went to bed. So that's about 10 hours a week. And then the weekends. And now I'm gone. I travel 10 to 12 days a month. So I'm gone. And so those 10 days that I'm gone, I'm not there in the evening. So I lose those 20 hours, let's say. But now I'm home 18 additional full days. So when my kids weren't in school, that's an entire extra day. That's 18 of them. You take the weekends away, that's almost double the time or triple the time that you're actually at home present. And that was the important part, was being present. I could be at home and still trying to catch up on work remotely, but now I have a clean break. I'm done with locums. I'm at home and it's just my family or whatever I'm pursuing in my personal life. With my income, I calculated 10 to 12 days per month was all I needed to keep the same amount of income that I had as a W-2. And I've actually, with the tax benefits, I've actually been able to increase my income working in 2024, 8.5 days a month on average. And I increased my income from before I started. So it's really powerful once you start delving into these other facets of life and optimizing everything, like what you can achieve.
Okay, you have tripled your time with your kids. And that is, when we talk about why, really, for me, it's the same with a 1 year old and 2.8-year-old now. Oh my God, almost 3 year old, you know, missing their milestones. Like that time you'll never get back. And each age, each year has different progress milestones. And for you to be present, to be able to support them through all that, that time you'll never get back. So now you've tripled early on in their this stage where they need their model the most, right? Where they're like forming the subconscious the most, if that makes sense. And now you tripled your time with them. And at the same time, you're able to increase your income by learning more short-term rental because now you freed up that time. You don't have to like go in 22 plus hours. I mean, I'm sorry, 22 plus days anymore. Freed up that time to dive into short-term rental. So not only did you increase your income, but even more with learning short-term rentals, investing, personal finance, because many physicians actually don't know much about real estate in general and definitely don't know much about short-term rental loophole. So
Exactly. And I took the time that I'm doing locum. So as a proceduralist, there's a lot of places that have trouble hiring physicians or have enough. And so they need somebody to cover to keep the doors open for the cath lab. And so that doesn't necessarily mean that you're busy the whole time. You can be, but you can choose your own jobs and find ones that need you there, will reimburse you, but you're maybe not as busy. And so I took a couple jobs like that where I had 5 or 6 hours during my workday where I had to be present in case of an emergency, but I wasn't actively doing anything. And I put in that material participation into our short term rentals so that we were able to use the bonus depreciation and then shelter the income I was making. So it was kind of a compounding effect where the time that I was actually working, I got paid more. I worked less and used that additional time to optimize my investments, which then sheltered income and increased more income so that I had, by the time it was done, I looked last year and I only worked 101 days, I think. We took 5 vacations and was able to keep everything as it was before. So just a lot of freedom. And I'm been able to craft my own lifestyle, kind of schedule vacations and family first, and then work around that.
wow, you basically only work 3 months of the year,
Yeah, I
three and a
didn't
half months.
realize it until I got to the end. I went through and counted the days because I had a 3 week shift that got canceled in November. And I'm actually starting tomorrow going on that 3 week shift. But I was like, well, it's too late to do anything else. I might as well take the time and be present with my family. So I only worked 6 days from November 1st to January 13th. I worked 6 days. The rest of the time, kids were off for break. I was here the whole time. We did tons of fun stuff. I had time where it's like, okay, we've got a week. What are we going to do? And we moved to Dallas and there's a bunch of stuff we hadn't, explored yet. So we did day trips and went to arcades and went to movies, just lots of things that, before I didn't have the energy it was the end of the day and it was time for them to go to bed and it just wasn't time to do it.
Yeah, and that's so important because most of us are, rushing in the morning to get them ready, dropping them off. And then you work a whole day. And really, the time you get is rushing back at home in traffic. And then you're doing the bedtime routine, like feeding, bath, and then bedtime routine. And then so there's really no space at all to create those core memories, to create those memories that they actually cherish, remember the one on one time. You don't have any space for those one on one times. And you've been able to craft that just by going locums. And for those of you guys don't know about the short-term rental loophole, it has to do with something where, if it's basically a business and you can deduct expenses off of your business, and also another thing called bonus depreciation, but that's essentially paper losses that you can deduct from your business. And that helps shelter your W-2 or your 1099 physician income. It seems like that's what you're doing. And tell us a little bit about what people like. Like now we kind of get to have a vision of what's possible. What I want to know, like, what kind of steps do they need to take next in order to actually? Well, the first step is shedding the fear before any action, right? It's deciding to take the action. So I want to know, what was that split second time point, if there was one, that you decided, okay, I'm going for it? Because Tony Robbins says it's in the moment of decision when your destiny is changed.
Yeah, when you get that discomfort where there's too much discomfort that you can't help but act. I was on a call night and I had tried to optimize everything before I left so that while I was gone, things would go smoothly. And I got a call from my wife saying, I can't do this anymore. And I was like, that's red, alarm bells in my head. I never want to hear her say that. I'm doing everything I possibly can. And, there's times, there's gaps that are happening. And we thought we had it figured out. Kids kind of find a way to throw a monkey wrench into that plans. And I was like, all right, I need to find a way to be around a lot more and have the energy to do things. And then it was, I had a lot of discomfort not doing anything. So it was a lot easier to get that momentum going and change things drastically. I took massive action, but I let it get to a point where I was very uncomfortable before I started. I want people to be a little more proactive and test out the waters before you get to that point and up level your life so you don't have to go through that the negative stuff that I went through. And locums, there's limiting beliefs that it's for people that can't hold down jobs or that the jobs in locums aren't good ones. All of that's false. It's changed a lot, especially since the pandemic. And as most, I think a quarter of physicians are over the age of 50. People are retiring more. There's more and more jobs available and more people in early career that are now looking at it as a lifestyle play. As W-2 physicians, we don't have control over our schedules. We don't have the autonomy. This gives you that autonomy back and you can do whatever you can with it. So the second part of it is people go into locums and then it's like, it's lonely. I'm in a hotel by myself. I'm not having fun. I miss my family. And I went into it, I was like, they're missing such a big opportunity where you now have time for yourself that you can put in systems to be ultra productive because now all the distractions are gone. It's just you and what can you get accomplished during that time so that when you do go home, you can hang everything up and just be, dad.
And I have that similar question too. It's like, how can you have to have the mindset right to be able to leave your family for 10 to 12 days and then be able to come back. And the trade-off is worthwhile to be present with them for the next like 2-3 weeks. And oftentimes I know my husband has never been away from our kids after almost 3 years. Not once. Never stayed away for a night. And I pushed him to like leave to get some time for himself. And I literally like 2 days, 3 days ago. So I can see how it might be super beneficial for somebody to unplug, to get away, to get some me time, to feed yourself first, your health, to travel on your own. I've seen some of your photos, maybe to go work out on your own, to like, I feel like me traveling on the plane or when I go away for conferences is when I get the most things done.
Yeah, exactly. Because you can just focus on what you need to do. You can do your journaling, you can set a schedule, you can follow it. And just because you're away doesn't mean you can't be active in your kids' lives. I FaceTime story time at night. So, like my daughter, we read before she goes to bed. And so now either I'll find free, Aesop's fables or Grimm story tales online and I'll read them over the phone, or she'll point the camera at a book and I'll read that and we'll go through stories together. So we can still bond. I'm not there physically, but I can still participate, which helps a lot when you're away. I mean, you get creative on how you can still interact and connect with your kids even while you're gone. The one thing with locums it's important to have is a system at home when you are away. So whether it's hiring a nanny, getting some other family member to help out so that the parent that's home isn't have a full-time job and a stay-at-home parent, or if they are stay-at-home, just have additional support. You're now optimizing your time, you're making more. You can take a chunk of that to get some help at home so that when you do come back, you're not coming back to a disaster.
Yeah, yeah, outsourcing, delegating, or eliminating clutter that you don't need to manage, if that makes sense. Yeah, like stop buying things to store things and having to organize things all the time and just eliminate them.
Yeah, absolutely.
In terms of steps, like okay, we talked about the mindset shift. Okay, now that they've shifted their mindset, what do you think would be the next 3 steps?
For getting into locums, one is starting to look at what opportunities are out there. There's a lot of locums companies. There's ones that are going to lowball you and try and get you to take lower rates. There's physician-owned ones that are a lot more friendly and get higher rates and are a little more streamlined. There's opportunities all across the US. So starting to subscribe or log into some of the locums companies and see what jobs are available, what the rates are. And then step two is going on like the physician Facebook group for locums that has 6,000 members that everyone talks about what the rates they're getting are. Figure out what you're worth. And you'll realize you look at what you make as a salaried employee and you look at what is your rates are on the open market and you go, wow, I'm worth a lot more than I thought I was. And that helps you with negotiating in the future. So, figuring out what jobs are available and how those could fit your lifestyle, figuring out what your worth is. And then the third is to try it out. I mean, you can do locums while you're still working. If you take some of your vacation time to test it out. I kind of just, took a leap of faith and quit my job and figured it out. But you don't have to do that. You can try it first while you have your regular job and see how it feels, what the experience is. And you can jump into it all the way because at the end of the day, you can always go back and be a W-2 employee somewhere else. If you're looking to do locums, maybe you need a change in your current situation anyway. So kind of getting over your limiting beliefs, figuring out your worth, and starting to look at opportunities would be the first couple of steps. Now, there's a lot of other steps in between: credentialing, finding the place, how to negotiate, how to find your Airbnbs, optimizing your traveling, how to do well once you get to a place as a locums because you're kind of by yourself. It's a different mentality than being with the team, but those are all doable. You'll end up finding out that the locums lifestyle is probably a little more streamlined and relaxed than if you're in a high clinical setting, just because you're not crunched for time all the time. You can actually think and be yourself.
And do you have any names of Facebook groups or like a biggest website for locums, or that's specialty specific?
So there's a physician locums Facebook group. You have to put in your medical license to join, and that would be where I'd start. Like I said, there's 6,000 people. People have been doing this for 10, 15 years, people that are starting out, and they're very active, very receptive to other people. There's a locums conference coming up by someone in the group that's putting on in, mid-April. So it's gaining traction, and that there's definitely a community. You can start hearing from other people who I say have unplugged from the matrix, realize that they can create their own adventure.
That's awesome. And with halftime freedom, how do you compress the of course, this is a lot of work. There's a lot of steps in between, like you said. How do you compress the time for those physicians who want to get the outcome that you mentioned? You're the dreams that you've achieved. How do you compress their time?
Well, I've made two different blueprints. One is for going into locums and one is for going into short-term rentals. And it lists all the steps that you're going to need to take. It has checklists, it has resources, it has actionable guides, and helps you, for the locums blueprint, it's 70 pages and it's, all right, here's step one. This is, once we figured out why, all right, here's how you figure out whether a locums company is giving you competitive rates or not. Here's the type of, what about direct contracting? How does that better or worse than locums? Is that good for you? After direct contracting versus locums, then figuring out how to get all your credentialing. I've got a list of all the stuff that you need, a lot of the stuff you didn't realize that you needed, that you can start getting together now while you're figuring out, what your first job is, so that you don't have a bunch of credentialing to do, which makes it a lot easier. And then once you do get on the locums trail, how can you optimize your routine so that when you're away, you keep everything as it was at home. Like I stay at an Airbnb, I have a Planet Fitness I work out at. I meal prep the first day that I'm there. So I'm not living out of, off of fast food restaurants for a week. I'm keeping the same nutrition, hitting the same macros. I'm working out better because I've got more time. There's just a lot of different tips and ways to optimize the experience so that you can make the most of it. So you're not just going away, working, vegging out afterwards, then you come back home and then you've got a bunch of work to catch up on. You come home, your work is done, and now you're just there for your family.
Yeah, in terms of the blueprint, they can take this blueprint, but they can read through it and act it themselves. But I know they can also consult with you as a consultant as well. So ideally, what do you think? Like, from people who decide to, hire you as a consultant to help them transform their entire life, how long do you think it'll take from them deciding to maybe getting their first locum job, just so that we can get a timeline or maybe an example of your timeline?
Yeah. So, I offer consultation. We go through a list of questions. What works for you, your specialty? I can introduce you to the locums companies I've worked with, and you get the blueprint as part of the consultation. So you get all that information. You have questions, we can go through them. And I mean, really, after one shift of locums, if you do a weekend or a week, you're going to be able to see the before and after. So getting that first assignment, once you get the credentialing down, doesn't take too long. There's a lot of them that have a lot of need depending on your specialty, and you can knock that out. And afterwards, it's like, well, how was it? So, there could be follow up communication later on, email support or additional consultation calls if they like. So that's one side of it. And like you had mentioned briefly, the STR blueprint is also if a physician, maybe they're not trying to do locums, but they want to shelter their W-2 income. Short-term rentals has just as many steps to getting optimized if you're starting a business so that you're not just getting tax savings, but you're getting a great investment. And I went through a lot of coaching. I put in a lot of hours. And so I've gotten a lot of experience where I can at least guide people in the right ways to go, the right people to talk to, and how to underwrite properties correctly so that you have a good investment after your tax savings.
Tell me about the short-term rental property across from the raceway that you guys are developing.
So we just opened up a property in West Michigan. People love coming there in the summer to the beach. It's right across from a motorsport speedway. It was an old farmhouse. We added a heated pool to it, a new deck, and it's now a luxury short-term rental. I got a couple listings for 2000 a night this summer already. We've been able to bonus depreciate it, and between that and another property, I've sheltered my entire income for this year. So it's now all tax free. So it's very powerful, but there was a lot of headache and hand wringing throughout the process. But the mistakes or, learning opportunities I've made, coaching that I've received, I can distill that down and at least give you a blueprint of how to maybe avoid some of those pitfalls to get to the same, positive outcomes.
Yeah, I just really want to highlight that for those of you guys who are listening. What he meant in layman terms, if you're not into investing, is that he paid no taxes on his physician income. That essentially just increased, like it's like a raise, okay, automatic raise. You put in a lot of work for the STR, yes, for sure, lots of learning for sure. But that's essentially what that meant. There are so many paper losses, deductions that you can do as a business expense that you can deduct it against your active clinician income, and you're getting a giant refund check back if you're a W-2 or 1099. And same thing, I think I deducted like 90,000 or 70,000. I can't remember off of my 2024 taxes from one property, one short-term rental, 4-bedroom in Galveston. So it's can be super powerful if you can combine locums and short-term rental. And also for the people listening, that the reason why you hire consultants or coaches, it's because you are going to pay either with your time or your money. You pay a consultant or a coach so you can compress that time, so you can save that time and not make the same mistakes. So you're paying either way. I don't get any financial benefits from Ryan at all whatsoever. I'm just saying that if you're listening to this, if you want transformation fast, then I would suggest booking a call or going to his website and figure out, like, take the first step now, right? So if the people want to hear more about you, where can they find you?
So you can go to halftimefreedom.com. I'm on Instagram, Ryan Mallory MD, all one word. putting out content about my experiences in locums, some with short-term rentals. And I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to help out any way I can. I mean, this has just been such a big change in my life. I can't go back, and it's not something I want to keep to myself. I hear other physicians I work with on my locums journey that sound like I used to, and I'm on the other side of it, and I feel completely different. I'm thinking about things completely differently, and it's definitely prolonged my career. I really enjoy practicing a lot more, and I'm going to do it a lot longer. I just do it on my own terms.
Yeah, now you don't have to go to work. You can just choose to go to work. It feels very different. What is the first micro step for people who want to go into STR and the first micro step for people who want to go locums? Would you say right after this call, like that they can take right now for people? So they're not
Well, the
just listening.
first micro step, if you go to Halftime Freedom, I've got free downloads for both how bonus depreciation works for short-term rentals and basic steps to start with locums. So you can get those resources for free. I'd love to help you in taking that step. It's really just getting that curiosity and making a commitment to either learning about something or taking action to you got to do something. Gaining the knowledge is one thing, but actually taking the steps to implement it, getting over that inertia, those are the micro steps that'll start the momentum.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And for people who are listening, just remember that if you have kids, if you have a spouse, they're not going to wait around forever. Each time that you lose with them, each hour that you lose with them, it's gone. It's never coming back, right? Especially the ones with young kids. So again, thank you, Ryan, Dr. Mallory, for coming onto the show and for sharing with us how you achieved freedom so early and the methods. It's work, but it's possible. So again, thank you.
Thank you, Anne.
And for those people who are listening, everything, all the resources we talked about will be in the show notes on productivitynd.com. And just remember that everything we need is within us now. Thank you.
Disclaimer: this content is for general information purposes only and does not constitute the practice of medicine. No doctor-patient relationship is formed. The use of this information linked to this content is at the user's own risk. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice for any medical conditions they may have and should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions. The views are personal views only and do not represent any university or government institution.